Step into the pulpit with Detric James.
Okay, here we go.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I first want to say, appreciate you all for all the love and support so far. I hope you all enjoyed part one. If you didn't see part one yet, go back and check it out. It's not too late. So right now we got part two coming up, and I am excited for you all to hear how this journey turns out. Well, I guess you have a good idea how the journey turns out since we are sitting right here, but hopefully you will enjoy the rest of our story, the rest of what makes us who we are, the rest of how we become, and how we ultimately end up becoming powerhouses together. Thank you all. See you on the other side.
I wasn't interested because I had no idea he was interested. I mean, he had a lot going on. So I'm like, that's where his interests are right now, trying to figure out his relationship. But at some point, he began to talk to me about a conference. Transformation Church in Tulsa, Oklahoma. Their conference, TC conference, version 1. Very first conference that they had, he had been encouraging me to go. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking, I'm a single mom. My savings is my lifeline. If anything were to happen, I need that money. And so I was just like, no, I'm not. I don't think I'm going to do that. But it was like maybe 2 a.m. one morning. And the concert was getting really, really close. But I wasn't sleeping. I remember God being like, buy this ticket, get this flight. You need to go. And I was just like, I'm going to spend this money. And I did it. I'm also the type of mom who doesn't leave her son with just anybody. So time away from him, I'm like, I don't want to take my baby to the conference, but I also don't want to leave him. But I did it. And on that trip is when God revealed some things. And so something that we typically don't really talk about is that on that trip, there was a part in there where they were doing prayer. And because of Detric's situation and because of what was going on, and he had made me fully aware of where he was with this young lady, I actually prayed for her. And I really wanted God to do what was best for all parties involved. So I understood that God was allowing us the opportunity to possibly be in relationship. But my prayer was that if she needed her relationship with Detric to become who God created her to be, I was okay with that. I was letting God know that I wasn't putting my stake on Detric as the end all be all. Like, what's best, God? Like, don't just let her be out here lost if Detric is the only way that she could find you. Don't let me be the one. And so that was my prayer. And just to really give her peace and clarity, and even him, helping them navigate all that. And I didn't understand or know just yet that prayer is what gave him some clarity on what he wanted to do. But we left that conference understanding that we had a desire to possibly be in a relationship. We still hadn't chosen.
That kind of sealed it for me. Like, I knew that this is the type of woman that I wanted to be in a relationship with. I have been asking God for not just signs, but signs. Like, God, like, listen, I don't really know if I preached my first sermon at like 20 years old. So I'm walking into 40 at this point in time in my life, y'all. So I'm supposed to be a minister, and if y'all hear the stuff that's been going on, ain't a lot of ministry type stuff happening, right? I'm struggling, like I'm out here scuffling, trying to navigate what it's like to do what I think God is telling me to do, and not really wanting to do it, but then Him not really letting me be, right? So I'm kind of going through some struggles. So in this process, I know I love women. Like, it's just my thing. Like, never just, I love women. And I knew that if I'm going to be God's guy, I'm going to need some help. So I started like asking like friends, hey, like, would you date a minister? Not really. Okay, would you get married? without having sex. And I'm sorry, ladies, I'm telling on y'all a little bit. I didn't meet any person that was willing to truly date, have a relationship the way God is asking us to. And, that was really disheartening for me because I'm thinking, okay, God, like really, real talk, like if you're going to do this, like I'm going to need some help. And so to bump into a woman who I told who I was, who saw who I was, because there's some other things that we really hadn't got into that was in our communicating stage. But she said some things to me that were very important. But she saw who I was before I ever performed any ministerial things around her, and she saw what type of man I could become for God if I chose fully. And I believed. Like she spoke life into me in a way that I've never been spoken to before, where most people just kind of dealt with me being the preacher boy, being the PK, pastor's kid. They were okay with me doing my little church thing on the side, but as long as it doesn't really affect them. She fully embraced who I was in God and seemed to really like and enjoy and be excited about what God was going to do in my life. And even if, we always say this, even if we never dated or were in a relationship together, we felt like we were going to be a part of each other's purpose. Yeah, really, I mean, if we're honest, when we started really dating and getting to know each other, we really started really getting more attracted to each other's purpose than we were to each other. And then everything else kind of came after that. And so that's kind of another layer of backdrop to like the story of when I'm in Tulsa, when she says that prayer. At this point in time, I'm like, yeah, this is crazy. Like I've never had a woman at this point not try to possess me, which I didn't like being possessed. I don't like
That's
being
good.
controlled.
I don't know if you've ever felt like that before.
And so the fact that you were willing to let me go for another person based off of the type of minister, pastor that I am now, I can only imagine what my life will be like. Because you're still allowing me to go and serve others. Yes, and other women. Thank God for deliverance and healing, right?
And I think that's the conundrum of it sometimes. Yeah. It's like to hear you say, I love women, and it be an issue in one area, and now purposefully be married, but also still have a heart for women.
I still love women.
It's no different. It's just healthy.
I just took it from serving myself to serving God.
That's good.
From inserting self into fixing and helping and trying to make it work to pointing them to God. And sometimes, fellas, shedding some light on some of the bull be on. Sometimes you gotta let my sisters know, hey, that is. But God, trash.
And this is something I love about Detric, honestly. He has trash dar, is what I call it. He can meet any guy, and he will tell me immediately, they do trash.
I'm sorry.
And just being real, he knows because he's been in a space in life where he's been the trash, right?
Trash, man. Listen,
and so
trash know what trash is.
It's so intriguing though, because I don't have that, but I do discern women and their desire, and my goodness, my husband does not. And so we'll be in rooms and things are going on. And I'm like, she was breaking her back to get over there to be noticed by you. And he's like, for real, who? What happened? And I just be like, really? You don't see?
She thought I was lying at first, y'all.
I don't know if I thought you were lying. I just, how my brain works, reasoning. I have to have pathways of reasoning. Like it has to make sense to me or it's not going to compute. One of the things we struggled through, or I guess I could say work through, we struggle, is that I say we have different processors.
Yes.
I say that when he hears something and I hear something, it processes differently. And so that's what I believe it is. It's a difference in processing. And so I don't know if I didn't believe you, because I wouldn't call you a liar. You've always been quite honest with me. but I just couldn't compute it. It just didn't make sense. And so then once we did it more, around each other more, I'm like, oh, he really just doesn't, it's just not something he discerns. That's when I realized that discernment is a gift. And it's not discerning of all things all the time.
You can be discerning high in one place and not discerning in another. And I had some insecurities as well that contributed to that, as far as not feeling desired. And so if I don't feel desirable, then of course I'm not going to be thinking people are desiring me, right? And I do also thank God, it was sort of kind of protection, because in the state I was, my insecurities, if I had known every time a woman was attracted to me, yeah, it'd been way worse than what it was.
The Lord is kind.
The Lord is so kind.
But so from there, leaving the conference, coming home.
Yes.
I think. Why are you laughing?
Because this the whole leaving the conference. There was the whole another episode right there. So.
Yeah, it was. Things got strange after, or stranger. But so I think for you and I, we really gave it time to see where we wanted to be. And I allowed him room to decide what it is he wanted to do. I have no expectations at that time of, because we've seen what God can do with us, you should choose me or anything like that. No pressure, because I truly believe that everything works for the good of those that love him. And I know I love him. And so if it's best for me, it'll happen. But if it's not God's best, there's another way, because he's not a man that he should lie.
That's right. I think for me, it was probably more pressure on me at this time, on myself. God is placing what I secretly been asking for in front of me. And he's basically telling me to choose. And I didn't really know how to make that choice. I did not know how to push aside 20 years of relationship. Once again, this podcast is about relationship. I mean, I knew that if I walked away from the romantic side of our aspect of our relationship, that the friendship side would be gone. And before Alisa, I wasn't willing to make that decision. I always chose her over anyone else, and mostly because of the companionship and the friendship that we shared. So this was a very difficult decision for me, and it was really the first decision I made to show God that I was serious. So for me, one of the things that I will tell you all, or whoever's listening or watching this podcast, is even though obedience is better than sacrifice, you're going to take sacrifice to obey. To get into the place where God is destined and God is calling you, you're going to have to make a sacrifice. And for me, I do believe that relationship and what it stood for in my life at that time was a sacrifice that God was requiring me to make. And I made it. It wasn't easy, and I don't know how far this podcast is going to go. I know it's probably going to be multiple parts. But there's a very pivotal conversation that me and Lisa have in our marriage about me having to grieve this relationship because, as you guys can hear or see, I don't know if you know that what I was telling you, but things progressed very quickly from Tulsa to marriage. Just be transparent. Came home from Tulsa. I know what I feel like I have to do. In the next, that weekend, we're confronted all together in a space on a hike in Adulting. The next day was the next day. So you got back.
We got back in what day?
We got back a day early, I thought.
Yes, I came in behind you.
You came in behind us, right?
It was one day for me.
So one day for you, but it was 2 days for me. Saturday, here we are. And I'm confronted with these paths.
We're back at Next Level Adulting.
And we're hiking, of all places. And
which I love. I love it.
And so I'm
excited, I'm happy, I'm lighthearted. I'm looking forward to it.
And I'm cool because I didn't think she was coming, and since she showed up, and here I am.
We're back to old habits. I'm trying to create space. I'm running,
and I'm not because at this
steps
point,
ahead.
Now at this point in time, I'm fully aware. Because I don't think I have the ability to show you I'm going to choose her over you.
I think that's normal for most people. But for me, even now, I wouldn't say you chose me over her. I think you chose God. I don't think you chose me over her.
That's good.
And
that's good.
You have to, that's, me and words. Yeah, I'm always careful about how I say things because I don't want to be idolized.
That's true.
And that's what it sounds like when you say, oh, I chose you instead of her. To this day, we were on the same level. You had a choice. So there was no outdoing each other or anything like that. But I do believe because of your history with her and her desires, or at least her admittance to you that there were certain things she did want to accept when it came to your calling, you chose God.
Yeah, that is correct. That is the backside that we don't talk about a lot. Is unless you're very close to me, that there were some differences that her and I had when it came down to who God was calling me to be, and so that was perfectly said. I think that was a good interjection there to say that yes, I did choose God. I don't back off from Alisa at this point, even though I haven't fully clarified things with her at this time. And that made for a very interesting, uncomfortable day. I did try to end things that day after that hike. I thought I did a pretty good job. It just didn't quite.
Don't ask me what I think.
It didn't give what it was supposed to give. Yeah, I mean, it's still struggle for a little bit longer past this. And
I know my husband well.
Yes.
He's not direct and he's not final. He leaves room for assumption.
And I don't like hurting people.
And he's going to try to do it in the best way possible to where it doesn't hurt your feelings. But unfortunately, in clarity, typically it's going to hurt their feelings. And so I don't know what was said. I was not there for any of that.
I hate confrontation. So I've hated it. I've gotten better as I've gotten stronger relationship. Relational Intelligence being a very good book for me. But I don't like confrontation. I don't like hurting people. It makes me feel like, how can I do to people what has been done to me? I feel very bad. I never knew how to cut things off completely and let it be. I got pulled back in a couple of times. I allowed it, but there was part of me that wanted to be there because, once again, she's my friend. I wanted to keep the friend. In my mind, there was a world. Y'all probably gonna look at the camera and be like, bro, really, dude. In my mind, there was a world where I could remove the romantic side and keep the friend. That was my desire. Foolish as it may be, that was my heart behind it all. And I'll say that made the beginnings of our relationship sort of kind of tough in some ways, even though it was on the front side everything's going spectacular. But on the back side, I'm still not being probably as transparent as I should have been with either of them, if I'm honest.
I agree.
So, I don't know, baby, where we go from there.
I think our next conversation, are we going to do it now? Still rolling? I mean, let's move into what that looks like concerning transparency, but also clarity, right? So, from my perspective, you've chosen, right? But I see the sign that your choice isn't making a difference on the other side, right? Okay. You're at my aunt's birthday party. You were with me for Thanksgiving.
That's right, Thanksgiving.
And phone calls are being made. Request of presents is being
that's correct.
Made. Characters being attacked because presence wasn't there. You didn't show up. You weren't a man of your word, and all these name callings. And there's these instances where worlds are colliding. I am of a maturity to understand what's happening. I'm not sure other parties were. But for me, I know Detric. I know what he's doing. I'm not unaware that he's obviously wanting to end things but don't know how. You know, I wasn't sure of the depth of what that not ended looked like, but I just knew that him saying, I told her this is what I want, and her behavior was not adding up. It just wasn't. And so I remember wanting to completely disengage, but being aware that God was like, no, that's not what I need from you. God did give me a choice as to whether I wanted to pursue things with Detric. And I told God that I trusted him, that he showed me Detric as the man that he had for me. But I was like, anything that goes wrong, Lord, it's on you. And I'm going to be coming back to talk to you. Because even now in our marriage, when Detric goes off the deep end, I'd be like, I don't know who that is. I'd be like, come, Jesus, come get your boy. You brought him over here. Come help him. He needs some help.
It don't be that much.
I said it this morning. But yeah, so I just believe during that next stage of what we experienced, there was a lot of grace given on both sides. Because I can be a hothead. I can have a whole attitude. I think I handled it well.
You did.
But you could have been like, I don't want to deal with her responses to it, which I didn't give you crazy responses.
Oh, you didn't.
I think I was very direct in ways that you're not used to, though. Like, when I was mad, I told you I'm pissed.
Yeah, no. That's true. I mean, I would say that Lisa, I'm handling things in a way, in the expectation that immaturity is what I'm going to receive, because that's typically what I was getting and what I had dealt with in our past. So I really moved in a way not to get the response I didn't want. So that, like she said, that didn't really, I wasn't really like a liar, but I was a protector. And I ain't overshare. You're going to have to ask me questions now.
Which he doesn't like.
And I don't like questions. So, I make it so where you're going to ask me the question, I'm going to be not really happy about the question you ask. So if you really ask it, you must want to know, right? Mm-hmm. And so one of the early conversations we had were really about that, because Alisa, Denise, now James, must have, requires the truth. So we had to have a conversation. Listen to me, people. You have to have these conversations while dating. What does that look like? Because to me, truth just meant answering your questions truthfully when asked. That wasn't quite her definition of truth. Her definition of it's something more like along the lines of, if you know it's gonna hurt me, or you know that you shouldn't have done it, and you don't tell me, you lie.
And the omission
yes,
is lying. Yeah. Okay. And also, if someone else can come to me and tell me something about you that I don't already know, we have a problem. See? So full transparency is truth to me. Living your life in transparency and vulnerability, to where I should know where you are, how you feeling, what you got going on. If you had a run-in, if sister girl approached you down at the whatever, like, I need you to have an openness about these things. And I also need women to understand that you can't ask for these things and then have, these responses to them that puts the man in distress. So when he comes to me, or if he comes to me and says, man, such and such approached me when I was at the whatever, and she seemed like she was trying to holler, I don't get to act all crazy. I don't get to then try to incriminate him and, well, what you do to make her think she could do that? You don't get to do all that.
Because I'm not going to
You take the information and you are grateful that your person is being transparent with you. That's what you do with it.
She earned in those moments, she made it safe for me to be honest with her into the aspect that she needed. And I never experienced that before. I mostly experienced people giving me a lot of flack for things that I felt like I couldn't control. Yeah, I just wasn't gonna deal with that. So here God bringing this person who doesn't like to be asked questions with a person that asks a bunch of questions. Don't have no problem asking questions, even though she know I don't like questions. She still asks them. She still asks them, y'all.
You gonna give me these answers because I need to know.
And so this is what we talk about when we talk about needing it's work. Sometimes the nerve is what's getting work.
And I have
she called me on the phone.
Yeah.
Where you at?
Where are you? What are you doing?
In the car. Coming from where?
I was at the store. What did you get? And I know it seems annoying, but I'm really not trying to be. I'm not trying to be nosy. I genuinely want to know what you were up to, and not that I'm gonna incriminate you or I'm trying to figure out where you done messed up so I can keep tabs on you. It's nothing like that. I just really want to know, but I forget that these things, because of his past decisions,
it's trauma,
are triggering for him.
Correct.
I'm just asking, but because my mindset isn't set at a dial of like accusatory or anything like that, I'm calling, and in my mind, I'm making conversation. I'm just asking the questions of normal. And he could call me and ask the same stuff, and I'm like, or I may even offer it up before he get that far. Like, I don't know. It doesn't become a thing to mull over. Right. So I don't even know what I say when you call and ask me questions. I probably just answer. Oh, you don't do it? No. Oh, see, I don't even know that.
No. Do unto others.
Did you have them do unto you? The golden rule for me sometimes is...
Yeah, she don't go. Yeah, I guess her rule must be silver or something. I don't know.
Oh, it's platinum over here.
Nah, platinum's higher than that.
I know, I'm higher.
Whatever.
If I did unto others...
What we going? What was we going with this?
Yeah, let's move on.
So, see, is needed. I was struggling at this point. You gave me grace through the grace of God.
Amen.
And during this point,
He's a good guy.
And so we're moving along. We're meeting parents. Like you said,
well, at this point, we've decided to officially pursue something.
Yes, date.
So we exclusively date. How far down are we going?
Date.
I mean, you asked me to be your girlfriend December 8th.
Okay, so before the end.
So do you want to talk about November? I just talked about Thanksgiving.
I mean, we can talk about November.
Hey, how we moving this timeline? How deep we getting?
We talking about it, baby. I mean, it's the truth, right?
We on your podcast. Lead the way.
Raise the pulpit. Truth got to come from the pulpit.
Lead the
way. So, November, things happened. He was asked to come and spend some time with the said ex-friend or friend at this time. Once again, still trying to navigate this space. I don't want to make it sound like what it is, what it ain't. I had a decision to either go or not go, based off of the level of relationship that Lisa and I had gotten to at this point. She's met my parents, I met her parents, she's met Davin, I met Amir, met extended family. We are being in a fully committed relationship. So I get the call, I make the decision to get in the car and go. Holy Spirit is screaming at me, and there's several places on this road where you can, you got to turn around, the turnabouts. So about every one of those turnabouts, the Holy Spirit is like, turn there, turn there, turn there. So those are all would have been left turn. The turn to go to her apartment was a right turn. The minute I made that right turn, the Holy Spirit ceased talking. So in this moment, I would like to pause and say, the Holy Spirit gives you directions, it gives you a way out. It will not force you. It will not take your will. And at the point of time where it sees that your will is not going to give in, you're not going to surrender, he stops. And so that night things transpired past what it should have. And in my mind, because we weren't fully committed, no harm, no foul. I can't say that my spirit fully agreed, but at this point in time, my mind is probably a little bit more stronger than my spirit. Because I'm still coming out, y'all. I got some work to do.
But now I understand Thanksgiving. When I said behaviors didn't seem to be adding up, she could have fooled.
Yeah. So that led her to kind of maybe have some hope of things to come, possibly. But I didn't really have that hope. Thanksgiving happened, and it was bad. Really, really bad. And so that was pretty much the final nail in the coffin for that relationship. So she knows something's happening. At least she doesn't at this time know that that's happening. She's just like, she tripping. Yeah. Maybe I should go home.
Yeah, it was just way too much energy given for something that should be over.
Yeah. So during this time, and so I think this is a good place to segue into this.
Okay.
So during this time, I'm dating a God-fearing woman who has dedicated herself to God into dating God's way. Remember that woman that I was saying that didn't exist? Well, God was like, here she is, what you gonna do, right? So me, in my most Detric way, as we're dating and getting to know each other and I see things are going to go and I have certain thought process of things that I've been doing for a while, I asked her, what can we do? Her response was,
we can go to the movies.
Yeah.
We can hang out.
Mm-hmm.
We go out to eat.
Mm-hmm.
These are things we can do.
Yes. And so I'm like, oh yeah, that's real cool. That's all really nice. And but like, what can we do? Like, do. And so, yeah, at this very moment, I'm like, I think I'm getting kind of tired. I think I might have called it a night. And so at this point in time, I get off this phone and I'm thinking to myself, nah, God, I actually pray. Like, I started learning how to just talk to God. Like, God, come on now. Like nothing. I've never done nothing, right? And he's like, okay, what are you going to do? Is this not what you've been looking for? So I go to sleep that night. I wake up the next morning, and I come together with a game plan. And I tell her, hey, I've never done this before. So nothing thing. I wasn't what I was looking for or what I was thinking of. I was thinking no intercourse, but maybe we could do other stuff, right? They're probably going to judge me a little bit, but I just thought that was okay at that time. I found out it wasn't okay, and I found out sex is not okay, guys. Other stuff is not okay. Still sex, okay? Still sex. Other stuff is still sex. Got it right there in the name. Sex. So, we clear that up. I need help. So, we don't date right away at my house. There's no coming to my house right away. We dated in groups. You can call them chaperones if you want to, but more like we just friendly people. Courtney and Whitney, they went on a lot of dates with us. We
literally spent time together in groups.
And then after the groups, we will meet right after work. Like in parking lots. Like if we went to a movie, we would go to the early movie. We would meet up in the parking lot of the movies, sit each other in the car and talk, go to the movie, and then leave from each other. We didn't even go out to dinner most of the time after that. And so I needed a game plan, right? Because I knew I was going to mess it up. I knew me. I knew what I was accustomed to. I knew what my desires were. And so I knew myself that if you put me in this position, I'm going to want more. And I needed more God in me, more spirit, more love before I could really control my desire. You know, it's very difficult sometimes to talk about it. And Lisa and I really come to this place one time. We really don't like talking about the fact that we didn't have sex before marriage, because sometimes it can give off the wrong connotation, the wrong thought process.
I just never want people to get so focused on it that they miss everything else that we have to give when it comes to a perspective of marriage. We did wait, but I also want to be transparent in that there was a requirement of waiting that God requested of me. So prior to Detric, there wasn't that same level of, like, I had 90-day rules and things in place, but there was no one who can say I said I'm waiting to marriage. God made sure, and the more you talk about where you and God were at the time, He made sure that I wasn't going to have sex with Detric before marriage. Like, I don't know why, honestly. I just knew that this is something I had to do. He had never told me that was he was looking for or anything like that. I think very early on, like when you ask, oh, nothing. And it's just, I just really truly feel that God knew that was necessary for he and I to be here. And God also had him do the things that God knew was necessary for he and I to be here.
Yeah, me and God were having active conversations, and I was very, very convicted about my behavior over the past years. You know, at this point in time, there's almost 6 years between my divorce, and all 6 of those years I'm living outside of what God has required of me, and just messing it up, y'all. Like, I was just messing it up. Like, it's just I don't have no other way of saying it. You know, in the podcast, I'll get more into my personal struggles during this period, because I think it's very important too. But for the sake of our story, we're gonna say that for another day. But it does make sense, and I think we're having like some revelatory moments right now as we're going through this podcast, because I was having a lot of conversations with God because I had a desire to please Him. For the first time, I believed I could be and become who God was asking me to be. I'm also during this time starting the groundwork and the foundation of becoming ministries, which He gave me. And so now it's not just like myself. It's not just me. It's not just my son. It's all the people that God is starting to tie me to and tie to me. And so it just really started becoming real that I was going to have to take up this cross and follow Him. And that in doing so, that was going to require me to kill off some things that were within me that I had just kind of let have free reign. And I realized that this really weren't serving me at the end of the day anyway. And so fast forward a little bit more, we're December. I still go, and yes, you guys, you can put your little judgment in there if you want to. December the 8th, I do ask Alisa to be my girlfriend, fully commitment, exclusive. That was also the first day that we had a becoming meeting outside the top of the river, and great, everything's moving along. I'm pretty sure she's the one at this point in time, or she's the one that I'm going to choose. That the one thing that gets you in trouble if you're not careful, because there is no such thing as the one person in this whole universe that could be your wife or husband. But I know she's the one I'm going to choose around this time. I'm pretty set in my mind. Things start happening, rings come into play, and yeah, we go to our church, to my church at the time, Ebenezer, and I wanted her to come to this singles ministry that we were having. It was so very much, right? And at this singles ministry, God, Holy Spirit has a trick for. He gets up and Pastor Banks is preaching or teaching us this in this class that we're having, and I'm just feeling lovely. Got my girl with me. I'm smiling. He knows I've talked to him about things, and he knows where we're kind of headed. And he actually ended up being the person that did our marriage counseling. Him and his wife Keyshawn. And so I think I've actually talked to him about possibly even getting and buying the ring. Matter of fact, I already have the ring, and he's the person that helped me get the ring. And so he's talking straight to us in this ministry, and he's like, Psalms 91, he who dwells in the secret place of the Most High. And he looks at us, and almost at me, and is like, when you get married, you don't have a secret place alone. Yeah. It's like the only thing my brain thought about was this night and like she's chilling and I am like done for in my mind. I'm like, God, why would you bring me this far to leave me now? Like, this is what? Like, we wasn't even together, Lord. I didn't ask her to be my girlfriend till December. He like, you heard what she said. So this is like 11 o'clock. What time did I tell you?
It had to be like what? About 8?
8? Y'all, it took me. Listen, y'all. I want to green out this day.
And you had been a little off.
Man, listen,
I didn't know what it was.
Like, I was distraught. I ain't never told on myself, y'all. Listen, God told me to tell on myself. And here I go, voice trembling and all. I tell her about the night in November. And she's calm. And I'm like, she's calm. Okay. And I'm thinking, I'm good. And then she goes, do not take my calmness or my silence as I don't care. I'm pissed. I'm really pissed. Mm-hmm. As a matter of fact, she started getting up. And the ring is in the back. And my first mind is, go get the ring and propose. And then the Holy Spirit's like, fool. No. And so she's putting on her boots. She's at the door. And the only thing that God allows me to say is, am I still who he said I was?
Yeah, because that decision didn't change anything about who he was. And it never would in my personal book. From me getting up off the couch, I'm at the door, put my boots on. Detric disappears. You have to know the level of anxiety that he can enter into. He went to the bathroom. This man went to the bathroom. And I'm leaving. And I get my boot on, one of them, and I'm putting the other one on. The Holy Spirit just like almost like I felt like my boots were cement. I couldn't move. And I'm just standing there. And he comes out and he asked me about if he's still the same guy. And I said yes. And I decided to stay, but I wept. I didn't just cry. I wept. I was very, very sad. A piece of me is like, God, why would you bring someone to me who would do this? Because I never would have done it to him. And that's something that I think at that time of my life, I always remember. So that's why I don't go by the golden rule. Because if I did, I'd live by it. It will be my priority of living. So that's why I don't go by it. I can tend to be very strict on myself about things I commit to. So if I say I go by the golden rule, I would literally be probably one of the most unhappy people on the planet because I am a genuinely sweet and kind person. And I'm treating people like that, but that doesn't mean they're going to give it back to me because everybody else may not be living by that rule. And so I choose not to because I'd rather live in a life of grace and just be who I am, give people me, but also give them grace when I don't get that back in return. But so I wept that night, but God was still letting me know that he knows best. And so I stuck it out. Don't get me wrong. I left that night, went home. The next day, I was fine. The day after that, he called me like I ain't good no more. Today's not a good day.
I was like, wait a minute, man.
Not good today. And I was grateful, though. He let me have my roller coaster. He let me be emotional. He let me feel what I was feeling. I think it was very important though. And I know everybody will be like, excuse me. I think it was necessary because it just allowed us to experience things in a way that we had the full understanding of where we were. I understand immediately that he struggles with something. And it wasn't about the act of it. It was why he did it. She called. She said she needed me. Could I just come over? He has this need to meet expectations of him. But also, if people are really in a bad way, if she's claiming that this is affecting her emotionally, her mental health, different things, he's gonna want to be able to help. He's gonna want to do something about it. So it taught me very quickly who I was marrying, if I would have said yes later. But it taught me who I was dealing with, I should say. But it allowed me the transparency that I asked for. I asked God to show me. And I can't be angry when he answers my prayer. I just can't be upset about that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it wasn't like I cried it out and it was good. I think we prayed. We picked our secret place in our home at the time, in his house that I knew I'd move to if we got married. And prayed. But yeah, like over the next, maybe a couple weeks, it was a roller coaster. But at some point, in my still now fashion, I'm like, if I'm going to move forward, and this is the choice I'm making, I have to leave this behind.
She never brings it up. I'm the only person that ever brings it up, even in this conversation. We're talking about it now because of what we're doing. But in the almost 5 years we've been together, she's never brought this moment up in a negative, I'm going to pay for it type of way. Once again, I keep saying like the word mature, and I just want to take the moment here to say thank you for forgiving me first and foremost, and for being mature enough to understand kind of what was going on. Well, once again, I was very broken. It doesn't excuse my decisions, of course. The fact is, I was broken, right? And so I needed to see that moment because my vow that day was to never have her cry like that over me and something that I've done that I can control again. And it was very, very important because it wasn't the last time that I've been tempted or tried, but I have passed every test since then. Thank God. In coming to this place of who I am, though, one of the moments that I think is going to ever be in Detric and Alisa lore is the day when I realized why I'm able to be faithful to her.
Mm-hmm.
And
this was a good day. Now y'all will understand why I said you chose God.
And so I had this understand this realization after one of the times that I've been kind of tried. And I was thinking to myself, like, because it wasn't much different than the other one. Mm-hmm. I'm like, how did I get past this? Like, what happened? Like, what's in me now that's doing this thing, right? And so I realized that I loved every woman I've probably been in a relationship with. I've love. That's me. Then allow me to be faithful to any of them. None of them. The only thing that's different was my full commitment to God. And so what I told her that day when I realized this was, the only reason why I'm faithful to you is because I'm faithful to God. And it was kind of a warning to her that if I ever stop being faithful to God, that she might want to start finding something different to do or protect herself in some way. My fidelity to her is totally bound in my fidelity to God. And so when I talk to young women, when I talk to men, I stress the fact that how can you trust him or her with your heart when they won't trust God with theirs? Like, it's so important to put God first. It's so important to go after a person that is going after God. And no, they don't have to be a pastor or a preacher or a deacon, but they gotta love God and they gotta love themselves. and then they gonna pursue purpose. Like we've been pursuing purpose together ever since. It took us some time to find our flow and our niche, but we've always known we'd be here doing this. We always known that the story, that what we've been through in our past, with our past relationships, our past marriages, will bring us somehow in front of people, telling our story, because God needs kingdom marriages back in the earth. This whole thing, y'all, started with the kingdom marriage, Adam and Eve. And then he tried to do it again with Noah and his wife. And he tried to do it again with Abraham and Sarah. And he is still looking for the kingdom marriage to represent him in the earth, to go out and tell all nations and make disciples of all men and women, to be followers of the way, which is Jesus. And that's all that we desire, and all our brokenness, and all the things that we've allowed God to heal us from. Because even though we are broken still, we are much less broken than we were before we ever met each other.
There's been a lot of mending, and that's why marriage is a miracle.
Yes.
If you allow it to do what it's supposed to, you begin to mend those things that you that your spouse will see in you, or maybe call out, or maybe bring to the forefront, because we don't always see ourselves.
Yeah, that's right.
We can look in the mirror and see something totally different, but having a vulnerability and a trust with your spouse allows them to tell you things about yourself that you may not want to agree with, or that you may not want to admit. But I think also that those first few years, like, I think it's no coincidence that we're going on our 5-year anniversary, and this is what we're doing today. I believe that those beginning years were paramount to our healing. You mentioned it earlier, and you said we may talk about it, but that conversation we had, I had a moment where I could see that he wasn't okay. He just wasn't okay. And I knew that his friendship and his prior relationship that he had let go, that he had chose God, and he knew that he would have to sacrifice it. I knew it was a problem for him, but he wasn't talking about it. And so imagine being with someone, 6-year span, watching football games together, going to things together, enjoying each other, just companionship, really. And now that's something I had to sacrifice, right? And if she was a guy, I would be, understanding, and he lost his best friend, and so on and so forth. Some would say that them having a romantic relationship during this friendship should change that, but it doesn't for me. So we had to have a conversation. I think I was actually recovering from COVID, where I really didn't know if I was going to make it, y'all. But I was in bed recovering from COVID, because I remember you were across the room from me.
I was sitting by the closet right then.
And I was telling him I needed him to grieve their relationship. I gave him permission to feel it, cry about it, be upset, whatever is necessary to grieve it, so that he could start to heal. Because without that grieving process, he was a shell of himself in our marriage, because a piece of him is still over here trying to figure out what to do with the feeling. I'm married now. I have a wife. But what do I do with the feelings of what I feel about a previous relationship? And so I don't know, I don't even know what prompted the conversation that day, other than he just wasn't being fully him. And I knew he needed that. I knew I'd have to tell him that it's okay. Grieve it.
Because I didn't feel like I had a right. I feel like it would have been disrespectful, on top of the fact that I didn't want to talk about it. Like, because if I'm doing it, and I'm a very literal person, and so I didn't want to have to talk to her about it. I didn't want to have to talk to Lisa about it. I didn't want to tell her that I'm hurt. I mean, you're not supposed to tell your wife that you're hurting over your ex-girlfriend, when most people would assume and feel like I missed the romantic. I missed the romance. I missed the person that I was loving in that way. But she somehow, thank God, understood that I'm literally like missing my friend. I was spending every day with my friend, and we did a lot of just life. We did a lot of things that we just really enjoyed each other's presence. And so I was struggling, and I didn't know how to not struggle because I didn't think there was space for me to walk this thing out. That's one of the moments I think that define who you are and define the type of woman that you are. Once again, she just never ceased to amaze me in the ways that God allowed her to be perfect for me in the season that we met each other. We laugh about it because I can never see her past who I met, and she assures me that the woman that if I'd met her at a different season, that all these things probably would have went a different way, right? And I assure her that in a different season, we never would have made it past.
Never.
Nothing is what we're doing, right?
I think God was so strategic in the timing. You asking your mom to pray in December, me submitting myself fully in January, submitting my relationship and the future of my relationship fully in January, and us meeting in February. I feel like he was so strategic that by the next February, we were engaged. But he knew what we needed. He knew what needed to happen. He knew in what way everything had to take place. Could it be that my experience of COVID and my understanding that life is way too short? Because what if this were the thing that killed me? I'm newly married. My son is experiencing a new way of life. And then his mom is taken. Like, it gives you a new perspective on life. But even before that, I knew what I was experiencing. I knew who I was getting because God had prepared me. He would show me things. He would tell me what I was dealing with. There's no coincidence that my first initial experience of a woman giving you attention when you were oblivious was at that first conference. I think he did the prep work for us so that we would be able to give each other what we needed. I didn't need as much when it came to previous relationship. I was solidified in that those things were over. There was nobody lingering or calling or anything of that nature. But I did need room to allow myself to fully trust that safety again. Sometimes because there's no other person involved, it seems less important or less condemning, but I take my convictions the same way. It's like, this is nice and you seem great. But I'm always going to keep myself a way out. I'm always having a window. And that's how I was probably until, I would say maybe a year ago, to be honest. Our first 3 years, the full trust wasn't there. Love him. Will always be honest with him. But if he had asked me, I trust you to a point. Then that was the truth. Now, in my healthier spaces, I fully trust you, knowing that you're human, knowing that flesh is flesh, but also knowing that a mistake you make won't kill me. See, there was a storyline at some point of telling myself I'd never be able to recover from being in another relationship that didn't work out. So that's what kept me from getting in one. I don't need to be in another marriage that's going to fail. But now I understand that marriage is an opportunity to make a covenant and actually stick to it. It's not dressed up pretty in a box. The weddings are nice, Yeah, because it's a very small part of what's going on.
The engagement, they were literally a month apart. They really were very small, intimate, because, that's just the public show to everyone of what we committed to God first. And, even God, to me, arranged things in a way to have us move faster probably than most people would have thought we would, or maybe even I thought I would. But I know he needed us in covenant relationship, and he did the things he needed to do to get us there.
I think everything worked the way it was supposed to. 100%. I think God's hand is still on our marriage, and I think it always will be because we were obedient and we chose His way.
That's right. I mean, I would say safety for Alisa was paramount. I feel like God showed me things that were important, and my engagement gifts to her were all things that symbolize safety. And that's the thing that I still uphold to this day. Am I perfect? No. Do I still mess up with the money? Yes. She is better at money than I am. I mean,
yeah.
And
just sidebar. Yeah. Sitting on the couch today, I hear the front door open, and all I hear is, I'm like, you done bought something. Mm-hmm. I ain't said nothing.
It's cold outside, y'all.
So a few days ago, I bought 3 heaters. Why is a heater on the front porch this morning? How many heaters do you need in the winter?
The other heaters was for inside the house. It'd be cold downstairs, right? My wife, she be getting cold.
So now the heaters were for me, y'all. Yeah, see how they fix it up real pretty for you. But at the end of the day, I understand that God is our source. We have the money. Okay, He spent it. It's not how I would do. But at the same time, can I be transparent? Can I be real? I probably sent that same amount of money to a personal stylist today because I want to be styled for a few events that's coming up. So he ain't said nothing about it. He knew it was coming. He looked at the outfit. But I understand that marriage is a give and take. It's a compromise. But who am I to be mad about your 15th heater?
I'm trying to keep the house warm, man.
And then put it on me, because I do be cold, y'all. But I didn't see all the heaters coming. But so, who am I to be upset about him buying multiple heaters and know that they are going to benefit me when he ain't going to say nothing about me personally? And so those are the things. I may not have chosen heaters to buy, but I chose to spend money on something. Yeah. And so he can say he probably messed up with the finances, but it's not necessarily messing up. He just may not do it the way he knows I would. Yeah. So he calls it a mess up. That's true. But it's not that. Yeah, as long as he ain't putting us in debt, that's going to send us into a space that I'm going to be like, pull back.
And she helped me with that. Like, we have these historical, traditional men and women roles. Yeah. But I'll say, really, get to know each other. Look at your strengths and your weaknesses. Like, God doesn't need 2 of the same people together. Like, how can 2 people become one if they already was the same? So I would advise to put those gender roles aside as long as there's love and respect. Husband, love your wives. Wives, respect your husband. Remember the order of things. You can make the relationship work the best that it needs to work. She is better financially than I am. So she then handles the finance. I don't feel less of a man for that. Hey, I feel blessed. I don't stress about the bills being paid. And from time to time, but guess what? She got 15 million things going on that you done placed on her, and she so happens to forget to pay the bill. I don't get to come to her and be like, why didn't you pay that bill? Entrusted her to do this thing. I ain't helping do this thing. I don't then get to come and disrespect her or belittle her for not being perfect. Once again,
and I'm grateful.
It's just a respect. It's just, if you love this person, treat them like you love them. I can live by the golden rule. I try my best to.
And I think that works for you because you're very consistent in that way.
And so it just keeps me level-headed. It keeps me mindful. The word of God says, love the Lord God with all your heart, mind, and soul. And it says what? To love your neighbor as yourself, right? And these are the tenets that becoming is built off of. This is the tenets that the pulpit is built off of. That love is everything because love is God, right?
Yes, He is.
And what better way to show God that you love Him than having a healthy relationship with the help me that He's given to you, right?
Amen.
It is not good for man to be alone. Like, that's the first thing that God said wasn't good. Light, the sun, the moon, the stars, the fields, the birds, the trees, all good. Man by himself, not good, right? And so that's not only in a marital, it's also in friends and family. Like, we need each other, y'all, but we need to be healthy, and we need to learn how to have healthy relationships, how to handle conflict in a healthy way. Like, 5 years in, coming up, guys, and I don't think we've ever screamed at each other. I don't think we've ever yelled at each other, and of course we never went past that, but we just choose not to.
Yeah, we just choose to do it differently. I think when you have an understanding of who God is and His intention for man, a lot of my respect comes from the space of, who am I to have asked God to send me His Son? And then when I get it, I just disrespect Him, mistreat Him. Like, I just can't bring myself to disappoint Him in that way. And another side of me being able to accept you saying that your ability to be faithful comes from your faithfulness to Him is very mirroring of what I'm saying now. It's just in a different way. I don't struggle with faithfulness, but my trust, my security, my disrespect of you, it leans on who God is, and I'm like, I dare not mistreat His child. I just can't bring myself to do it. And I think also, if I truly love you, like I say I do, which is supposed to be unconditional, and have a full agape love for you, knowing that I've asked you to give me full transparency and vulnerability, let me see your insecurities, right? And then I go and violate you in ways that I know these things are going to be triggered. That's just another level of disrespect that I'm just not willing to do.
Oh, that's good. I appreciate that. And y'all, I would see moments where I knew that she wasn't quite where I was when it came down to the trust factor, due to just things that happened in her past, where she was raised, when she was growing up, things that happened in the previous marriages, and I gave her space for that. I had to show myself, and I was willing to allow myself to do the work to show her that she could trust me. We still have some things that we're still working through. We still, listen, y'all. We still ain't quite figured out this whole parenting thing with the other kids. Like, that's the part.
Train, but I done got off on a couple stops.
Listen, that's the part.
Trying to get back on.
That's the part why, I understand why God doesn't like divorce. I understand why God says to do it right the first time. Because when you add extra people into a relationship, it does get messy and it does get difficult. And I got an older son, and he got things he's been doing a certain way for 15, 14 years, and then that all changes, and so it was difficult, and it's still difficult, and we still don't get it right, and we keep trying, and we are determined to keep trying. And so what this all boils down to is, why are we having this whole long podcast? It's really just to represent God on this earth. It's to show that you can fully commit yourself to God and to another person, because she has God in her. So to fully love God is to fully love her, and for her to fully love God is to fully love me. And so at the end of the day, we guide each other, right? We love each other. And it might seem mushy and it might seem weak or whatever, but we good. We're happy. Are things perfect? No, but we genuinely are happy with our lives and what we do and where we are. Absolutely. And we can't wait to see what else God has for us. This is really only the beginning. Truly is the beginning. And before we I think this is a good place to end. We go into maybe deeper, another time, or maybe
another time
on your podcast.
Yeah. They come on over to mine, and we'll go to like
the next level of what we've gone through. But I think this is a good place to kind of end us here. Yes. But I do want you to kind of tell them about your ventures before we leave, and other things that you do and have done and are working on and doing.
Okay, well, like you said, Powerhouse. I created my podcast, Powerhouse on Purpose, and now it is a full brand. And so I have the podcast, but I also have the Power Panel. Our first panel will be this year. Hopefully, we'll do one each quarter. Where we'll bring just, top-notch, great people together on different aspects or discussions and topics, and they can kind of talk. And we really want to offer people the ability to hear these discussions, so we'll be uploading them along with the podcast. But I also wrote a book, Path to Purpose. It's available on Amazon. He's looking behind us because it's on the shelf. And that has been a journey, but I did think it, important that I get that out. And lastly, I'll talk about Pamper on Purpose. And so post-COVID, I actually ended up getting the COVID shot, but it didn't do as well with my skin. I have all these dry spots and stuff. I have eczema full-blown now on my hands and feet. And so I couldn't find anything that was really helping. And so I thought about shea butter, which my dad was a big proponent of shea butter growing up. And so I began to play with it a little bit, and I actually liked it. So being the entrepreneurial mind that I am, I decided to whip shea butter and make it scented to make it, better. And then I did start making it available. So you can get pampered on pamperonpurpose.com. You can visit the podcast on YouTube. I'm on Facebook as Intellectual Beauty 86. I am on Instagram as Powerhouse on Purpose or Powerhouse on Purpose Podcast. And I'm also on Threads. And if you're ever interested in being on the podcast, you can reach out for that as well. We'd love to have you. Mm-hmm. I just want to thank Detric for having me as his first. I'm honored that he would think so much of our relationship to let me be the first. And I am just grateful for you. And you are not perfect, but you are perfect for me.
Oh, thank you, baby.
You're welcome.
Hey, that's all we have today for this moment, guys. I'll always leave you with a couple things. First of all, what we're becoming. Love God, love yourself, pursue purpose. And while you're out there doing those things, hey, throw peace. We're going to call that shalom, shalom. Have a good one.